We've so enjoyed sharing stories with you this week of members of our area's disabled population, each person making an important mark on the world around them. The man we're about to meet now is leaving his imprint on today by studying yesterday.
Mason Schrader doesn't let his cerebral palsy get in the way of his work as an archaeologist. As a matter of fact, the two are quite interconnected. As we hear from Delmarva Life's Katie Zerilli, Mason uses his disability to enhance his studies and his studies to enhance how we can make the world around us better for those with disabilities.
As a 24-year-old living with cerebral palsy, Mason Schrader moves forward, with forearm crutches, yes, but also by looking at the past.
I study people like me way back 2,000 years ago.
Mason originally went to school for anthropology, but all it took was one archaeology class for him to discover a deep desire to dig up bones.
The ancient world is almost just as relevant, if not more so, because we don't talk about it as much. And so I started, the more I studied the ancient world, the more I started seeing the people who had experiences similar to mine. Disabled people kind of pop up all over the place if you know where to look. King Tut probably had CP. Actually, a number of very famous Egyptian nobles had something similar to CP. We can just tell by their skeleton.
CP, according to the CDC, is a group of disorders that affect the person's ability to move and maintain balance and posture, and it's caused by abnormal development to the brain or damage to a developing brain. Mason is a triplet born 2.5 months early.
All of our neurological development was not ready for the sort of sensory overload of birth. And so my brother and I both had essentially little hemorrhages when we were born that caused our cerebral palsy.
Growing up, it wasn't necessarily learning to live with CP that was most difficult for Mason. It was perhaps seeing the intimidation others faced when it came to learning to live with him.
Oftentimes, people just did not know how to interact with me, right? They weren't sure if I had a cognitive disability, or they shouldn't mention my crutches, or, or how I talk or anything like that. People would stare at me and things like this, but never approach me. And when they did, they would often assume some sort of cognitive level of impairment. And so talk to me slower. This is something you'll hear lots of people with CP complain about, is that people would just immediately start talking to you very loudly and very slowly.
Through research, Mason is getting to the roots of why behavior like this happens.
The sort of elite of the Greeks and the Romans, which is the culture I study, had this idea of a perfect body. And that means all these sorts of different things, that it reflects an idea of the soul. And so if you have a good body, you have a good soul.
He's also getting inspired about our potential for progress.
It's not a thing that cannot be overcome. And oftentimes, even the elite spaces like temples and things like that had ramps for disabled people. And so if Greece and Rome is doing what we would in America call ADA access better than we are currently, I think something's very wrong here.
Mason's been all over the world for work. He's dug in the island of Minorca, Pompeii, and the Yucatan Peninsula. Part of his passion is to simply show people with disabilities that it's doable.
So many people would like to do that. So many disabled people would like to do stuff like that, but they just think they can't. And they think they can't because oftentimes places are incredibly inaccessible. And so part of my work is to show that, it's very hard, but there could potentially be ways.
For example, Mason digs lying down.
I'll lie down on probably sort of folded up mats or foam pads. I bring foam pads with me, and I'll lie down completely and dig up the skeletons that way.
And his ability to see the world from a different perspective actually distinguishes his work.
Like when I'm looking at an ancient site, like in Pompeii, to like pay attention to things that other archaeologists don't necessarily pay attention to. Like, how did the Romans actually walk on those giant cobblestones in Pompeii? Like, cause it's very, very difficult actually to do that. And like no one's written about that.
And so while his cerebral palsy has undoubtedly presented challenges, it's also helped shape his life. And he's proud of that.
But it does actually define me in some interesting ways too. I wouldn't be who I am without sort of the body I have, right? And I'm grateful for it. It's not easy all the time, and there's a lot of things the world needs to do better about accommodating disabled folks. But my disability does actually define me in some cool ways.
His experiencing CP in the present and examining it in the past can only mean for others a brighter future.
Mason is hoping to one day be a professor. He has 2 more years to finish his master's degree, and then guess what? Going for the PhD.
Of course.
Right?
And
Of
why
course.
not?
No kidding. Isn't that the
Wow.
truth?